Breast cancer doesn't just affect your body from an outward perspective. It doesn't just affect how you see yourself when you look in a mirror or how others see you. It affects everything. It affects your relationships, it affects your marriage, it affects your confidence, and it even affects how you may show love and that intimacy. This is one of the most common struggles that survivors face, yet it's probably one of the most least talked about just because of the stigma and just the embarrassment that comes with it. I mean, to be honest, who wants to talk about like how they're really feeling just to anyone if they're not really interested in knowing or helping or just guiding someone through those emotions? And to be honest, not a lot of people are able to help and guide and truly understand how someone is feeling when they're going through that. So if you've been feeling any of those feelings, or if you've been struggling in any of those areas and you want to know more about how to overcome those, you want to hear more from others who have gone through it or from someone who has gone through it, and just some things that others have talked about, then this is the video for you. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Zacobia and I wear many hats and many titles, but what probably connected you to this video and to me right now is the simple fact that I am a breast cancer survivor and I like to encourage others that are also on the journey. So welcome to my channel and let's dive in. When I finished my breast cancer treatment journey, I totally felt like cancer had changed me. And I wasn't just talking about the physical aspect of things, it also changed me emotionally. So there were a lot of things that I was, struggling with, or a lot of things that I was internalizing that I didn't necessarily tell everyone. Some of the common struggles that survivors are faced with after everything is just feeling like really feeling disconnected sometimes from your partner. You sometimes feel like just overwhelmed with I guess, the pressure of knowing what you still have to be, how you still have to fulfill needs for others. You also feel just like like you're not in your body anymore. You feel like whatever body, whatever you're left with after surgeries and reconstructions and everything else, you feel like that's not you. You don't belong to that body, and that's hard for a lot of people. You then have fatigue. You then have just the emotional distress and the fear that comes along with it. You feel like your body has failed you and you feel like it let you down. So then you have the trust issues, and so you're dealing with all of this stuff in your head at the same time while you're still having to be a mother, still having to be a partner, still having to be a daughter, a friend. And so you have all of these things that you're dealing with, and you're trying to somewhat still be yourself, and you still have those that are in your life, those that love you, and that like that want to encourage you and protect you and just make you feel like yourself. Like they're still trying to get you to be that old version of yourself, when honestly that person doesn't exist anymore. It's an emotional exhaustion, and to be honest, most time your partner doesn't even know how to really help in that moment, and it's not a lot that they can say or do anyway to kind of help you through it, because honestly that's something that you have to heal. That's a part of you that you have to heal within yourself. A lot of other survivors have shared that oftentimes they find themselves just kind of feeling like, I love myself, I love my partner, but I don't feel like myself. Or they feel guilty for not having that desire or not having intimacy at the top of their list. Other things is just that, they just feel like the body changes also, affect their confidence, which is true. If you were this, person that really loved certain aspects of your body, and now, what you left with doesn't look anything like what you were born with, then that does affect your confidence. And so it's a struggle. And, if you're feeling that way, then you obviously are not alone, because many of us feel that same way. And so there's work to be done. And the good news is that you can overcome it. You can survive that as well. But the main thing is, just being upfront with what you're feeling and approaching it from a different aspect. Don't try to hold all of that in. And so when you're thinking about, what I'm saying in terms of not holding that in, these are things that have helped me, and these are things that have helped other survivors. And so what does that mean exactly? That means you need to have a gentle, honest conversation with your partner. It is perfectly okay to let them know how you're feeling in terms of the emotional side of things, the hormonal side of things. Let's be honest, chemotherapy, hormone therapy, all of that affects your natural rhythm of your body. And so that can leave you with decrease libido, which you have no control over that. It's nothing you could have done to change that because you were in survival mode. You were trying to beat breast cancer, and the treatment led to that. And so it's not your fault. However, your partner may not know that. They may not have been as privy to the information in terms of some of the side effects. And so be honest with them and letting them know what that means and how it has affected you. And you can also be honest in a point of saying that I'm just not ready yet. I just want to be held right now. I really want to be close, but let's take our time. Let's just allow things to just be for a moment. And you deserve that. And you deserve just being able to fully disclose that and be okay with saying that. Although it's important to let them know that you obviously still love them. I feel like just being honest in those conversations in terms of, like I said, just I just want to be held, or I want the closeness, but let's be slow, or let's take it slow, or just the simple fact that I know that you still view me and see me as the same person, but I don't feel that way anymore about myself. I'm struggling in that area. And so being honest in those conversations will help you help your partner understand that they need to allow you to have time to get there as well, because I'm sure that they're going through everything in their head as well. And I feel like most times your partners will over, like, I'm trying to think of the best word. Like they try to drown you with the love and the reassurance. That's the word I'm looking for. And so they will over reassure you that you are completely normal, that they still love you, you still look beautiful and all of that. But the reality of it is when you see yourself in the mirror, there is a difference. And so having those conversations and letting your partner know, like, I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate how you're making me feel right now, but I also don't want you to ignore the fact that I am different. I don't want you to ignore the fact of how I look right now. I need you to be honest with yourself so that I can be honest with myself as well. And then we can come together collectively to find a way to accept this and grieve and to overcome this. The next thing that I believe is important is just really redefining intimacy and understanding that that's not always just physical connections. There's a lot of emotional connection along with intimacy as well. And a lot of times, people just don't tend to really pay as much attention to that until you're stuck in those situations where you realize that something is wrong, and you have to find a way to dig deep. Emotional closeness is important. Praying together, meditating together, sharing space together when it's just quiet and silent. All of that is forms of intimacy as well, and it's ways to show and express that I am here with you, I'm connected with you, I see you, and I love you. Then you can get more into, even the gentle connections of physical touch, and know that that doesn't always have to mean going all the way to the next level. So you could hold hands, y'all could cuddle, a nice back rub. My goodness, foot rubs. I know I talked about that in other videos. When your feet are achy and everything is hurting, those types of things help you along the way, to be able to show and express that sincere, genuine connection, showing appreciation for your partner and your partner showing you that, hey, I'm still here and I'm in this with you together. The best approach to getting over that hurdle is to understand that you have to allow time. Like, you have to go into it with, no pressure. What really helps you to get over that hurdle is understanding that you have to remove those expectations. You have to go into it slowly without the pressure, and allow yourself permission to be in a space to know that you need that and that is okay. And then those conversations that you have with your partner allows them the time to understand and to process and comprehend exactly what it is that you're feeling and what you're needing in those moments. And so you have to be able to vocalize the fact that I need time. I have to allow my brain and my body time to all get caught up on the same level. Going through breast cancer is a very traumatic experience and it's so fast. Everything is like bam, bam, bam. They throw, everything but the kitchen sink at you. But that's from the physical side of things. From the emotional side of things, that takes longer. And so just understanding that when you remove the expectation, when you move that pressure, it actually allows things to happen more organically anyway. And trust me, you're going to get there. It just takes time and you have to have grace. Your partner has to have grace. Everyone has to be patient in that process. Healing is a journey, and it's okay for you to be on your own pace for healing, as long as you're being 100% completely honest and communicating that. I remember when my husband and I first were dating, honestly, we weren't even married yet. And we had a disagreement, and I was upset with him for not knowing something that I felt like he should have known. And one of the things that he said was, I can't read your mind. Like, you have to tell me like what you want or what you need, or whatever the case may be. And so the same thing applies throughout marriage. The same thing applies throughout health challenges, and the same thing applies through every aspect of life. No one is out there reading minds unless they're a superhero, that we don't know of, but no one's out there reading minds. And so you have to be able to express and communicate that with your partner so that they understand, because they don't want to, when someone loves you, they don't want to allow you space to feel like you're not loved, that you're not appreciated, that you don't matter anymore. And so again, they don't really know what to do. And so you have to tell them so that they can best support you. Another thing that's helpful for some people is scheduling connection time. I know it doesn't sound like the most exciting thing to do because it's not spontaneous and it's scheduled. Who wants to do that? But to be honest, when you have so much emotional trauma and baggage that you are carrying because of what you've been through, what you've gone through, sometimes scheduling allows your brain time to anticipate or to prepare for what's happening next. Sometimes when you have all that traumatic stuff, the spontaneousness of things can be overwhelming. And so actually saying this day, this time, now allows you to think about it and process it and prepare for what that means. And so, again, it doesn't discount what I said earlier in terms of being, intentional about taking things slow and communicating and understanding all the other ways to be connected to a person that's not just physical, or when it is physical, to be gentle with those physical connections, but still just scheduling that time to think through, to process, and to prepare. A lot of times it helps. It helps a lot more than what you can imagine. I promise you that. And so if that is something that you are struggling with, especially from, like I said, the spontaneousness of things, and, maybe a touch that you used to, quite welcome and be completely, excited about, now it makes you cringe, or you clamp up and you hold your breath. When you can schedule that time, you know what that mindset is. And so it gives yourself time to get there. And so, again, I highly recommend it if that is something that you're struggling with. Okay. And it doesn't have to be, anything that's like a long, drawn out scheduled time. Like, even if it's just 15 minutes of intentional connection, it matters. Okay. Like, don't overthink things. Like, I don't care if it's just 5 minutes of having that closeness. Your partner is going to appreciate it, and you on the inside are going to melt as well. Sometimes you may even cry. It doesn't matter. It is time to face those challenges, and it's time to process whatever it is that you're feeling. And so don't be afraid to just do it. To just, like I said, just be intentional about it, and put yourself in a space to where you can take a breath for a second and just really process what's happening and what you've been through and what's going on and everything else that comes with it. It's so complicated. It's not even easy to talk about. It's just that uninterrupted time can be so beneficial for you and your partner. Another thing that we have to be honest with when you go through a breast cancer treatment journey is that there are going to be hormonal changes. And so whether you are, going through chemotherapy and those changes are temporary, like for the short term, or whether you are on a medication that puts those changes in a more long-term framework, either way, hormonal changes, they're real, and there's something that it's something that you need to be honest with your partner about, and it's something that everyone needs to educate themselves on. And so when you have hormonal changes, things are not going to be the same. There could be dryness, there could be pain there associated with that physical connection between you and your partner. And so you have to be completely honest with each other, because even though there are physical changes from the emotional side of things that you have absolutely no control over, even as it comes to your emotional imbalance and all of that, these are conversations that you can have with your medical team to help guide you along that way. And sometimes like my cancer center even had a center for integrative, like holistic care for cancer survivors, where you could talk about things like that, from just how you're doing emotionally, connecting with someone that can help you from the therapy side of things, and even someone that can help with chemical imbalances and ways that you can kind of overcome that, whether it's exercises that you can physically do, or just other items or other supplements that you can take and use to help facilitate the process to make it more comfortable and enjoyable for everyone. With that being said, there are things like lubricants, of course, moisturizers, and these things a lot of times don't have hormones in it. And so don't get caught up into that you have to use things that have hormones in it, especially if you had a hormone positive breast cancer, because that's a huge concern for a lot of people that have hormone positive receptor breast cancers. And so you want to know about things that are non-hormonal, because you don't want to disrupt everything after you've been through everything. And so those are things that are out there. You just have to have a conversation with someone, and you have to share what you're going through. So talking openly with your healthcare provider, like, you need to have a relationship with your healthcare team where you can be completely honest, even if you're more honest with them first than you are with your partner, because they can help guide you along with those conversations as well. But you have to be honest with someone. You can't sit there and suffer in silence, because that's not the answer either. Another aspect of the journey is, of course, those who have watched any of my previous videos know that I have a strong faith foundation as well. And so all of that plays into my personal healing journey, as well, in terms of how I've overcome certain struggles and challenges and things like that. The biggest thing with that side of things is me understanding early on that the old version of me was no longer there, and I accepted the new version of myself pretty early on, a lot earlier than probably most survivors. And I do feel like my faith had a lot to do with that. So how my faith connects and kind of helped me come through that acceptance stage earlier, goes into, like, I had a friend who shared Psalm 103:5 with me that talked about how basically, the ego, um, youth is renewed. And when I dove deeper into that, uh, I understood that, like, an eagle can go through a process in its lifespan where it has to make a choice, basically, to live or to give up. And I kind of really connected with that at the time. And you can study this further in terms of how eagles will shed their feathers and shed the claws and everything, and has to basically go through this renewal or renewing of their lifespan or their life cycle, and in that, they come out stronger and better. And so I really resonated with that, and I really like internalized it, because that's what I felt like I was going through as I was going through, losing my hair and losing this and losing that, or things that I assumed that I was losing. I understood it then to be, I was shedding all of this to go through this renewal process, and, this reset of my youth and my life, and this opportunity that God has granted me uh, to go at this thing again with a new perspective. And so that helped a lot. Not saying that that's going to, completely help you overcome every challenge that you're going through right now, but it is something that really helped me along the way. And so I just wanted to share that real quick. When you realize like the process of just life in general, you understand that, not everything is going to be like how this generation sees things, like that popcorn, that microwave mentality that everything is just going to snap back. And I can't snap both fingers, I know, but everything's not going to snap back and just go back to normal. Because for a lot of people, it's not going to go back to normal. There's a new normal now. And so understanding that shows you that there's a process that has to happen. There's a process that has to happen as you're going through the treatment journey. There's a process that happens as you go through the physical healing journey. There's a process that happens when you go through the emotional healing journey. There's a process that happens when you go through rebuilding and renewing your relationships and intimacy journey. There's a process through it all. Okay. And so understanding that gives you hope, because you know that if you go through the process, that everything on the other side is going to be different. It's not going to be how you are in the moment of which you're watching this video. It's not going to be how you are in the moment of that lowness that you're in. And so you just have to go through that process, and got to go through it and get to the other side to know that everything's going to be okay on the other side. Additional things to keep in mind as you're going through processing how much has changed. I think it's important to know that you should reach out if you are trying to do this on your own and you don't feel like you're accomplishing anything. I mentioned it earlier. You need to reach out to your healthcare team, reach out to your provider. A lot of times your centers will have, they'll have other additional support systems in place, like the Center for Integrative Cancer survivorship program that I talked about, that my cancer center had, where there's this team of people to help with everything, with getting your life. I hate to keep saying getting your life back to normal, because it's not back to normal, but getting you to a place of survivorship where you feel confident, you feel strong, and you feel renewed um, in this person that you are now. And so it's important to, seek therapy if needed, seek those connections, and reach out to your nurse navigator and let them know, what type of additional support you need, because you're trying this and you've tried that and it's not there. And a lot of times it's just that, you just need to talk to someone else, or you need to group with people who truly understand what you're going through and truly understand what it's going to take to get through, to get to the other side. It doesn't matter if you're feeling disconnection. It doesn't matter if you're feeling pain. It doesn't matter if you feel fear. It doesn't matter what it is. Don't suffer alone. Reach out and get the support that you need, because it's there. Healing is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. When you are healed, when that healed version of yourself appears, you are going to radiate it. People are going to see it. They're going to be encouraged by it. They're going to feel it. And so that's not a form of weakness. Going through that healing journey, that is your superpower in a sense, because that's what makes you stronger. That's what others need to see when they start their journey. That's how I'm able to sit here and encourage someone else. Okay, so to tie all of this back together, because I know I kind of went different directions, but the biggest thing that I've learned in this is that intimacy grows when you give yourself grace and you allow space to let it grow. And so, giving yourself that time and that permission to heal and to go through the process, that's where you're going to see that the intimacy and the reconnection and all of that come back together. It is like a flower, and it's a little sprout, and you have to water it, you have to nurture it, and you have to allow it space to grow. Give it the sunlight that it needs, give it the nutrition that it needs. And so that's what you're doing with your body. That's what you're doing with your emotional side. That's what you're doing with your physical side of things. That's what you're doing with the intimacy side of things as well. And so it's going to grow when you give it the space and allow that time to let it happen. Okay. Reconnecting after a cancer journey is completely possible. This is how you see people go out and start families, add to their families, or whatever the case may be. So it is possible. Love after a cancer diagnosis, for those that go through it when they're single and they're not married. And I know that's a huge concern for a lot of women because, how do I go into a relationship all banged up, scarred up, bruised up? You go into it confident, you go into it honest, and you go into it strong, and you tell them who you are and you show them who you are. And so it is still possible. Okay. Relationships, love, intimacy, all of that is still possible after a cancer diagnosis. It's all about how you process it and how you grow and how you mature in that journey along the way. You're still worthy of tenderness, of closeness, of connecting, of a healthy, strong relationship. You're not the same. Of course, we all know that. Anybody that's gone through that journey knows that they are not the same, but you're also not less than either. And so, again, you need to know who you are in that process, and you have to work on rebuilding the confidence. Don't let that go on the back burner. Don't let that not be important to you, because that is what gets you over the hump. Okay, guys, so that's all I have for today. If this video has been helpful for you, or if you feel that it will be helpful for someone else, please like, comment, share. If you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please do that as well. I appreciate the opportunity to encourage and to motivate anyone else that's going through a breast cancer journey. Don't be shy in the comments. Those who have been following me for a while know that I try to respond and connect with everyone that connects with me. And so, again, if this has been helpful, don't hesitate. Share it with someone else. Like, comment, subscribe. And until next time, peace.